few more minutes before the folks jump on.
So how long have you been with Dominion?
10 years now. 2 years in this role, but 10 years total.
Awesome. Client account manager or something like that?
I'm the external affairs representative. So I work with, well, it would be you guys. So I basically, am the liaison between the localities and the union. So if there's an issue or something like the outage that's going on, people will call me and they'll be like, hey, can you give me this information? Or if they have a constituent concern, they'll contact me with that as well, and I'll try to fix it.
Yeah,
It can be anything. I've had, hey, there's a cat climbing this pole, or or the other day I got, hey, is there a cemetery out by one of your substations? I think so. I think I remember it as a kid. Can you walk me out there to go see it? So things like that.
So we live.
Oh, hello.
Hello, welcome to Public Agenda. I'm Dr. Shellie Bowman, and in this session, I'm here with my guest, Mr. Marcus Garcia. He's our candidate for Board of Supervisors here in Spotsylvania, Virginia, Lee Hill District, and he's going to navigate a conversation with a panel of experts you see over my shoulder here, talking about data centers and their impact on communities. Mr. Garcia?
Thank you, Dr. Bowman. Good afternoon, good evening, Spotsylvania. I'm Marcus Garcia, candidate for Board of Supervisors in the Lee Hill voting district of Spotsylvania County. In recent weeks, months, and years, data centers have become a big topic of discussion. I just wanted to get a panel of experts together. I've had a lot of conversations with various members of the public, sitting electeds here in the county, members of the Spotsylvania County Planning Commission, honestly, in an effort truly to educate myself. And in doing that, I noticed a lot of not fully informed opinions when I had these discussions with other members of the public, my neighbors, some of my friends. And so I really just wanted to invite truly a panel of experts, subject matter experts. So those are the gentlemen that you see in the room here this evening. We have Mr. Andre May. He is with Dominion Energy. We have Mr. Matt Leslie. He's with Stack Infrastructure. They have facilities across the region. He'll give you more of that. And then I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Forrest Miller, candidate for Virginia House of Delegates, District 63.
That's correct.
So thank you for joining me, gentlemen.
Glad to be here.
Dr. Shellie Bowman is hosting and facilitating this evening. He'll be guiding the discussion. It's truly just meant to be an informal discussion. So again, I thank you, gentlemen, for joining me in this endeavor.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. All right, so we jump right into it. Why are data centers quickly becoming such a predominant topic of discussion here and across the United States?
Well, I mean, look at what we're doing right now, right? Live streaming this, all of that information that's making this possible to show up on your screen and hear what we're saying is being run through a data center, right? Whether you're watching this on your desktop at home, on your phone, on an iPad, all of that requires connectivity, and all of that is dependent on data centers. So, I think for those of us that are my age or older, we've seen the technology in our lives explode, right? You go back 10, 20 years ago was, have a home computer. Now we all have a computer in our pocket. So, we've seen this growth happen in real time. And, with that, it's really no surprise that the infrastructure that makes all of that possible is growing at the same speed.
Yeah, and I think how AI, artificial intelligence, is quickly becoming a part of our everyday lives. That engines that need to run that need to be hosted somewhere, and it takes a lot of horsepower to power those engines. So I think that has led to the exponential increase in the need for data centers. That's why they're looking at Virginia.
Yeah. Just a few thoughts from me, you know, as the father of a 5-year-old boy, a digital native, that's the term of art used these days, a digital native. My son and anybody up to about the age of 20, 25 does not know a world without the internet, a digitally connected world of Netflix and Hulu. Every video game out there is now hosted online. You can't buy a video game on a cartridge anymore. Air traffic control, the railway systems, liquid petroleum pipelines, they're all controlled digitally through the internet, and those systems have to be hosted somewhere. Virginia, Northern Virginia, you know, Mr. Leslie was talking to us earlier. The fiber backbone is here. We are within an hour's reach of about over half of the headquarters for all of the United States' intelligence community headquarters. There's 17 or 18 different IC agencies, and most of their headquarters are within this region. We have huge subsea cables landing in Virginia across the Atlantic, and so there's the reason. And so, you know, that's the reason this particular area has become popular. And now we have to, in my opinion, figure out how to mitigate it, how to live with them, how to take advantage of the opportunities they provide, while also, and I hope all of you gentlemen agree with me, protecting our citizens, watching out for their best interests. And so that's the conversation I'd like to have tonight while presenting some factual information that these gentlemen have. I'm confident they have the info.
So why Spotsylvania County?
Just like you said, Marcus, that Virginia is definitely in a unique position, that the fiber lines that go up and down I-95, I-81, and the transatlantic lines that come on shore in the Hampton Roads area put Virginia in a very unique position where I think our decision makers, our leaders in the Commonwealth need to treat that as a resource. The data center developers and the folks that are going to operationally run that, they want to be here due to that low latency connection that they get it back into the United States and across the ocean. So I think that we can have a conversation where we can all meet in the middle and do this the right way, because Virginia, it's good for land. We have land available. It's good for power. We do have power available. We can talk about the water usage on cooling. That's another reuse conversation I'd like to have, which is key in that. But Virginia is definitely in the early stages that the data centers can catch hold here, because up front there's a lot of workforce that's created to build it, but also there's sustainment workforce, 6-figure salaries that stay and run it. Mm-hmm. So that's an important piece of the total cost of ownership that we have to look at, and the revenue it generates for the county. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and I think if done responsibly, it's not a bad thing.
I agree. If you don't mind, Mr. May, can you speak to us real quick about power availability in Northern Virginia? Dr. Bowman's question was, why Spotsylvania? So from a power capacity.
I think that's one of the things that, and thank you for having me. I think that's one of the things that people get wrapped around the axle on when it comes down to power availability. People look at generation in their specific county. You look up the road to Louisa here and you see North Anna, and they think, oh my God, that's all just powering just us. And that's actually not the case. When you're talking about electrons, things that actually power the lights in the building that we're in right now, that are powering the microphone, that are powering the computer setup, those electrons could very well be coming from Surrey power plant down in Williamsburg, or they could be coming from Brunswick, or they could be coming from all over our grid area. So I don't want people to think that when they see growth in their area, that they're looking at the potential of all the power that is dedicated to the area being used up. Then that's not the case.
Yeah, fully agree. One of the guests I'd hoped to have here with us join us tonight, she couldn't make it. She's a representative from Rappahannock Electric Co-op. She did provide some input. I think this is a good segue for a quick highlight of the PJM marketplace, the ISO marketplace. It encompasses 13 different states and the District of Columbia. It's important to recognize what you were mentioning about this region. Dominion doesn't just deliver power to your home here in your area. They sell like soybeans, like petroleum, like pork. It's a market. It's a commodity. Electricity is a commodity. It's generated, it's sold into a larger market, and then resold. In this area, Rappahannock Electric is the distribution provider. And so when folks talk about, I've been asked, can you keep my power rates down? I can't. Not just because Spotsylvanians are using more power, but West Virginians who happen to be part of the marketplace, because people in Pennsylvania, consumers in Pennsylvania are using additional power. And it's part of a market. Think about it as, if you had to go buy, eggs were a big topic here in recent months. That is a global market. When you have a 5 million chicken kill-off in Ohio, it affects prices more
So,
in a larger region.
so what I'm hearing is power in this context requires a more broad discussion than just my front door, the plugs in my home, and my power that comes into my house. It's not necessarily, as with a layperson such as myself and maybe those that participate in the stream here. It's not just something comes next door to me and uses the power and then I have to pay. It's a little more than that.
It's a little bit more than that. And
Okay.
I'm glad that I was waiting for PJM to come up, because I was like, okay, when I get to lay this one in on everybody. So PJM actually stands for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland. Why it's not PNJM, I don't know. But I digress. But like you said, it's over 13. It covers over 13 states up and down the eastern seaboard, as well into the Ohio Valley, River Valley. It's made up of actually 21 separate utilities across that vast footprint that we have. And I mean, when you say PJM, what you're looking at is, I tell people, think of a spider web. Okay, think you're a spider, you're on a web, you get hungry, you wait for a fly to land on the web, you go down to that fly, you eat it, and now you've got power for the rest of your day. With the PJM, you have a large web that has multiple spiders in multiple areas on the web. And let's say that there's a spider over here that's hungry, and there's a spider that's over here that's got an extra fly. That spider would then work that fly down to the hungry spider so that it can eat. Does that make sense? So basically, what you're looking at is the PJM marketplace is basically all of these different spiders who are us utilities who are sitting down. PJM looks at the web and says, hey, Dominion needs additional energy. I need Pennsylvania, I need Ohio, I need Illinois, or whoever else is on the web. I need you guys to start pushing electrons in that direction so that we can help meet the power demand. PJM has forecasted in our area that we are actually going to need to double what we've done in the last 100 years. In 10 years, we got to double it. So part of what we do is we do what's called in their open window process. We give them different ideas on new transmission that we could possibly do, how we can upgrade, what we could possibly go from in order to help meet that need. So, but that's not just us, it's people all over the web going, how can we strengthen this web? Mm-hmm. How can we make it more durable? How can we send more flies? What all can we do in order to meet this growing demand? So as things like big energy users, like data centers come online, we're able to continue to meet that demand so that little Johnny, who's sitting in his house in Spotsylvania, can turn the lights on at night to make sure the monsters go away without worrying about are the lights going to come on.
Yeah.
So just so we can level set this for the most basic level of understanding. Little Johnny flips this light switch. It costs little Johnny $1 today as data centers come online, particularly here in Spotsylvania or wherever we touch on that web. What should the people expect that dollar cost to be at any point in time? Is it $1.10, $1.30, or $5?
So
If you can speak to that.
so right now, what we're looking at, and and we're not, blind to the fact that the cost of everything is going up.
Yeah.
All over.
Inflation.
Right. Inflation, everything is going up.
And always has.
And always has been.
Yeah, this
Right.
is not new. Inflation
Right.
is
It's nothing new. What we have committed to, at Dominion is reliable, affordable, and increasingly clean energies. And with that said, we know that the affordable part is what a lot of folks, want to make sure that they see. We still have one of the lowest rates within the nation when it comes down to what customers are paying.
Yeah.
And we are doing our due diligence to make sure that high-end users like data centers, that they continue to pay their fair share into what it is that's going on. That's why we've introduced, with the SCC, a new rate plan that we're actually looking at for high-end users, to lock them in at a rate over a specific amount of years, so that regardless of if they use it or not, within that specified amount of time, they are still helping to pay a fair amount of the infrastructure that has to be built for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What you're speaking of is like a rate case.
Right.
The Public
rate
Utility
case, right.
Commission. That's a common occurrence. There's all sorts of different tariffs, or what they're called, the rates, time of use, and large user tariffs, rates, small residential. And so what Mr. May just described there is very common occurrence. This is a relatively new industry coming online in full swing. And so I don't know the status of the rate case, but I presume you said SEC.
Right. It's still before them. We're still waiting on
Yeah.
to hear back on it and everything. So
You said a moment ago, increasingly clean
Mhm.
energy. What I'd love to hear, if you're able, Mr. Leslie, is, where is the data center industry on renewables, integrating renewables into their plan? Is there any discussion of that? If so, where is the discussion?
I mean, we're definitely always focused on, trying to make things as green as possible. I think, frankly, I can say with confidence that the data center industry is probably a global leader when it comes to sustainability and supporting green infrastructure. We're always looking for ways that we can make our buildings more efficient, reducing the power need. So, when it comes to, utilizing clean energy, absolutely, we're, looking for all of, every opportunity to partner with, folks like Dominion to make sure that we're using the cleanest energy as possible.
I love it. Mr. Miller, how familiar are you with the solar project, how you're part of the county?
Yeah, very familiar. Yeah, backs up right to the neighborhood that I currently live in. The way I see kind of the way it should go down, and I think this is on the minds of everybody around the area as well, is keeping in mind that Virginia has a resource like cheap land, communication infrastructure, using that as the foundation we make decisions on. Power requirement increase, I think we should look at more creative ways to power generate. There's been a couple bills that have come up in the General Assembly, like putting solar panels on top of parking lots, or maybe looking at top of warehouse distribution facilities or the data centers themselves. So maybe looking at how we generate and come up with more creative solutions to do that. There's a lot of talk about micro and macro nuclear sites. There's also talk about the Lake Anna facility. They have a pad that's available that's come up in conversation. But the framework for all of this is the Virginia Clean Energy Act that states that we have to get to renewable resources by the year 2050. That is very ambitious. It's going to be a challenge to get there, but a goal without a target on the wall is just a wish.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that the paperwork says we got to get there, and we're going to strive to get there from legislative decisions and us as a Commonwealth. It's going to be a challenge moving forward. And I think right now we have to put leaders in place that are familiar with the problem and that'll get after these creative solutions that are going to be needed for the decades to come. So one big thing out there right now is where that rubber does meet the road. Folks, like you said, little Johnny's parents are worried about the power bill going up.
Right.
So I think it's on all of us to fight that misinformation out there. And it's on us as leaders to make sure that they know that with the creation of the data center, that their power bill is not paying for those transmission lines, that kind of stuff. We have to be in front of that and get in front of the information war that's going to be happening. Because out there talking to constituents right now, folks are scared of data centers. There's nothing to be scared of. We have to get out there and tell them and educate what it is, why it's needed. It's not taking your water. It's only using this much electricity. I think that's on all of us to knock out.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially with getting out in front of we can call it misinformation, we can call it just the doom and gloom, the opinions or what have you. Because at the end of the day, the constituents, the people, those who wake up and try to figure it out, how to get to the next day for the benefit of themselves and their families. You know, they're looking at this and what they tend to think is, what is this going to cost? This is going to hurt me and my family put food on the table. And so I love that you said that. We've had conversations around doing similar things, or just provide information that's going to benefit or edify the people. Can you speak to Dominion's position on, just partnering with some of the local leaders to just say, hey, look, this is how we can mitigate some of this misinformation that's out there, if any type of programs exist?
I mean, that's one of the reasons that I have the position that I have. I'm an external affairs representative, so I work with the localities on different issues and things like that. We come up with ideas, different strategies on how we can partner better. Not only that, but how I help mitigate things through storms. I help mitigate emergencies. I'm sitting here right now waiting on a phone call or something. But it's interesting that you mentioned the solar rooftops and things like that. Those are different programs that we do have, our DER programs that we do partner with. We're working with a county right now trying to come up with different ideas and different resources on things that we can do to help mitigate those things. We've done things like in Northern Virginia, working with them to do electric buses. For school buses rather. We've done several county buildings. I'm trying to think of any ones that are in Spotsylvania that I can think of. But we have done some work in that area. We want to continue to do those things. We want to continue to look at what people tell us that their concerns are, and we want to continue to move forward so that we can make a difference in our communities. Most folks don't realize it's not just that we are a corporation that happens to be the utility, but the people that work in that utility are also the neighbors in Spotsylvania, the neighbors in Fredericksburg, the neighbors in Caroline County, Louisa, and different things like that. So we care about what's going on in our communities as well.
Yeah.
We want to see the pristine, waterways. We want to see all of the things that drew us to the county to live there, continue to stay there. But we also know that there are things that we have to do as a community as a whole to help make sure that we can be reliable with that power. And so, that's why we work together in those types of things.
Before we move on, I want to quickly go back to the solar project. Couple stats I read not too long ago. Every hour on this planet, enough solar energy hits the surface of the earth to power our needs for a day. We just have to collect it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, especially with some of the incentives that may be going away here shortly, but a kilowatt hour of electricity generated through sun or wind per kilowatt hour is right at the levelized cost of energy, LCOE they call it, right? Maybe you guys know. It's right on point with that of a fossil-fired kilowatt hour. And so the problem is you just have to do it faster. To your point about the Virginia Clean Energy Act, we just have to do it faster. The 500 megawatt project here in Spotsylvania, it sits on 6,000 acres of land. That's a lot of land. Doesn't come close to hitting the demand of a data center. But right now it's being used, Microsoft and Apple, they're buying energy from that project in the form of renewable energy credits to power data centers. And so, that's information that I think if folks knew, it could sort of tie into the larger narrative. It would help them sort of ease their angst.
Yeah.
And to sort of better inform decision makers. So.
And I think one key piece to that is the land it uses. So talking with a lot of the agricultural community in Spotsylvania County, they're scared of more of those fields showing up.
Yeah.
So I think it's on all of us to come up with those creative solutions and pieces of legislation that incentivize putting it over parking lots, over 100 spaces. We really have to start looking at different solutions that are responsible for growth. A lot of folks want to keep our little neck of the woods rural, but there is a statistic out there, areas surrounding Fredericksburg will increase by 1 million people by the year 2050 as well. So if we don't start planning for that now, we're going to find ourselves in even more traffic on Route 3.
Yeah.
So
I read a similar statistic from the University of Virginia just a week ago about that very statistic about by 20, would you say 40?
2050,
2050.
maybe.
Yeah, 1 million people.
So it's happening.
It's
happening.
Yeah.
It's just on us to make sure it happens as people conscious as it possibly can in the most intelligent and efficient way. So that way the impact to the people is more favorable than a burden.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I mentioned just real quick at a recent Board of Supervisors meeting, I spoke one of the recent projects. Why isn't there rooftop solar on top of these facilities? And of course, it doesn't meet the full demand. It never would, it never could. But some ancillary need on site, a hydrolyzer, for instance, or some other function, peripheral function of the facility. In my mind, seems like a good idea. And it speaks to that creativity.
Yeah.
And I think there's like little things that localities can do. Something that Loudoun has been very successful with is a program called Solarize Loudoun. And I know that's not unique to Loudoun, but I can just speak to it from being a resident of Loudoun for over 25 years. Is that Loudoun County government partnered with solar companies, vetted them, made sure they were credible. And they set this program up where, providing that kind of government credibility, put out to constituents that they could basically consult with these solar companies, for free with no obligation to follow through, but to allow individual homeowners to get the information and facts on, okay, if I wanted to do residential solar, how much power could I get from my house? What's it going to cost? What's the financing going to look like? And so, I think things like that kind of help facilitate those kind of solutions are really critical and are, creative ways that local governments can kind of help, push the whole conversation forward. I think, sometimes we get overwhelmed with, thinking about like where can we site the next 500 megawatt, solar facility, but, individual homes, those things add up as well. So, it's not, we love to hit home runs, but singles are important too, right? Every hit wins the game. So
that's a great analogy.
I really appreciate you speaking about Solarize Loudoun because, that's as you indicated, that's a resource that trickles down to the average person. And that's something that I think it's on all of our plates to do, is to try to figure out how we can make living in our county less burdensome as much as we think it can be based on data centers coming online, the increase of power usage, the water. We as Spotsylvania County residents, we're looking down the road and we see this ginormous park being built, and it's going to consume a lot of water. And we see these data centers that's coming up, which people think they're going to use a lot of water. I don't know. Maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can speak to with regard to the water usage, the impact on the homes here in the county from a data center perspective?
Water cooling is just one way to
Yeah.
cool a data center, right? And even when you speak about water cooling, I think it's important to understand that there are different versions of that, right? So there's evaporative cooling, which is certainly the most water intensive water intensive version of water cooling. There's also closed loop systems, which are like a one-time fill.
Yeah.
And so I think the other thing to just understand about some of the numbers that people may see when it comes to water cooling, especially even on evaporative cooling systems. And I don't think there's any right or wrong answer,
Yeah.
whether it's air or water. We're, as a data center developer, we're going to look at what makes the most sense. And obviously we're going to partner with the local jurisdictions to understand the water story there. Much like when it comes to power and talking to
Right.
Dominion, if it's not available, it's not available.
Yeah.
And so, but, speaking to those numbers, sometimes I think we see numbers and they come across as very scary. And it is very similar to the power story, which is that a lot of these things are presented as if they are the constant, this is what we're always using, every day. And really the number that gets reported or the number that has to be, that gets requested,
Yeah.
is kind of like our worst case scenario. It's like, what would we have to use on our worst day? And in reality, and so we call that our peak usage. And in reality, the day-to-day usage is much lower. And particularly when it comes to water cooling, especially in a state like Virginia, where, we get winters and falls and springs, right?
Yeah.
The overwhelming majority of the time, might not be using any water. Even a water-cooled facility is going to start with air cooling, and only supplement that with water cooling, as needed. So, I think it's just, important to contextualize those kind of things, and it doesn't take away from the impact, but sometimes the number can be scarier than it really is.
And I think this goes to your point, is fighting that misinformation that's out there. This is the second question that people ask. It goes power, then water. And I think with fighting that misinformation, there are ways to do it where everybody just assumes that the data center is connecting right up to your drinking water supply. And that's not the case. A lot of these projects are written in a way where it's stipulated that the data center will reuse water in a closed net situation, where the cool water comes in, cools the equipment, goes out and cools again, and it's just a closed net as their primary source of cooling. And a lot of the data centers are operating that way, with an alternate version. If they do need to increase their water supply, they can tie in, but it's not their primary. And I agree that should be looked at first in any build site.
So good news.
Yeah.
Good news. One thing I didn't mention to you guys, well, I'm not a licensed engineer. I am a degreed engineer, mechanical engineer. Thermodynamics and heat and mass transfer are kind of my fun wheelhouse. And so I've been studying this topic a lot, to the point about prohibiting, like in chapter 22 of Spotsylvania Code, right? We have water, sewer, and sewage disposal. We literally prohibit in law, in code, county code, the use of potable water for industrial cooling purposes. And so that's the idea of the reuse system. As long as the five of us go, number one and number two, there will be a need to treat sewage, and that's what we're currently using. The Massaponax treatment plant is undergoing expansion as we speak. They're going to be adding they're going from about 9 million gallons per day up to about 13. So they're adding about 4 million gallons. And there's also some follow-on work that Amazon is paying 100% of the cost for that. And then they're going to turn over that system to us. And then they're going to pay us, meaning the county, for that treated effluent to cool their site. I don't know if that applies to everybody outside of Amazon. Amazon's kind of blazing a trail here in Spotsylvania County, but there's more to come.
Yeah.
And so, again, just fighting the sticky sort of maybe legacy issues from Loudon or parts north. But, that's part of what we're doing here. So,
okay, it's from a time perspective, I want to just kind of switch gears a little. Can we talk a little about the benefits to the people, maybe jobs, revenue, just in a way that anybody who hears this can walk away and say, okay, it's not as scary, and there might be some benefit there if I upskill or do whatever the case,
Yeah, I mean, I think the most obvious thing to say is that data centers create, amazing high-paying jobs, right? The folks that are working in those facilities on a day-to-day basis, are incredibly talented and smart individuals, and that drives a high salary, and so those are really good jobs. I think one of the criticisms that gets kind of thrown in response to that kind of canned statement that you hear everybody say is, well, there's just not that many of them. And I can't remember who did this study, but there was a recent study that showed that for every one employee inside the data center, there's at least six jobs that are supported or created from that one job. And so you do get that exponential growth in those jobs are good paying jobs as well. I think the benefit to the community is obviously the revenue that data centers bring in. This is Loudoun County kind of gets pointed to for all the negatives and the positives, but I think this is certainly one of the positives and one of the kind of success stories of our journey, and being kind of data center alley and whatnot, is that data center revenue has allowed Loudoun County to consistently year over year lower the real property tax rate, and not just like a surface or kind of a superficial lowering of that rate, but an actual tax cut where the average homeowner's tax bill is going down even with rising home prices in Loudoun County. In this past year, Loudoun County was even able to cut the personal property tax rate, which is the rate you pay, the tax you pay on your car, by a whole $1. Is every jurisdiction going to be able to pull off that kind of revenue math? Perhaps not. And I would assume that, there's a lot of jurisdictions that don't want to get to that point. But I think that, the one thing that the stat that I've heard that is kind of the most impressive to me, and again, this may be particular to Loudoun, but I would assume that it applies generally across the board. For every dollar in services that Loudoun County government provides a home, or I should say that, every dollar of a home, the revenue that home generates to Loudoun County, it costs Loudoun County about $1.25 to provide the services necessary for that home. So fire response, police response, all the infrastructure that made that home possible. Data centers, for every dollar that Loudoun spends to support that data center, they get $20 in return. So you can see the ratio it's astronomical. There is no other industry that can create that. And it's because of the low impact that data centers have, right? I mean, we're generally running our own security. So your police and your fire, what do you call it?
Emergency services.
Emergency services needs from a data center are much lower than they're going to be from, even another commercial facility, let alone a residence. And so, similar with impacts to roads and schools, right? Data centers don't create children, at least as far as I know. And with those kind of, low in-house employee count and that, that kind of overall dispersed employee base, the impact to road infrastructures is also lower than it would be from a similar commercial structure. So,
by the way, Matt, it's PricewaterhouseCoopers that talked about the 1 to 6. So for every one full-time employee inside, 6 jobs somewhere else in the value chain is created. And so,
how about noise? That's the other, kind of thorn.
Real quick, before we move on to that, one last stat.
Yeah.
Matt did an impressive job. I don't think I could add much, but one tidbit. The analysis out of Mangum Research. It's a firm down in Richmond.
Yeah.
They're highly credible actuarials, and they've done the research for Virginia, at least in this market. For every about 1 million square feet of data center under roof, it returns about $20 to $21 million in revenue. And so that speaks to that ratio.
That's that 120.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's, so they pay back way more than they cost the county.
Yeah.
In fire services and transportation and things of that nature. In my opinion, maybe, no disrespect to you, maybe we could slightly drive slightly harder negotiations. We can't mandate proffers. That's
Right.
Virginia law.
Right.
But we are a highly desired area to be. So I don't know. That's just a thought I've had. And one last stat there I wanted to offer. So
you make a point about the negotiations. As a public administration strategist, my sole care is the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think first and foremost, if any negotiations are to occur, whether it be, data center or anything that's going to impact the county jurisdiction or whatever the case may be, the people should always be the first consideration. What is the impact to the people? So harder if it's going to benefit the people of Spotsylvania County. Yes, I agree. And I can go on record and say, I'm sure that's the vantage point from which you made that statement. But I do think we just have to be good neighbors, data center, just the people of Spotsylvania County, because it's going to happen. We just have to do it responsibly and the best to benefit the growth or the trajectory of the county. So on that note, noise, that's the other thorn in the side I've heard, so if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I'll start with a story.
Yes.
So there is a community down in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So I love lessons learned, my military background.
There you go.
You gotta learn, if somebody's already done it, don't do it again.
Yeah.
So there's a story down in North Carolina, a community of single family homes. They had a data center built within a quarter mile of the backside of their neighborhood. They can hear the cooling fans in their living room and bedrooms. And they held up decibel meters, and they can hear the hum of it. So to that point, there was a bill last General Assembly that would have said any data center site before the build starts, there needs to be a decibel study done.
Yeah.
A small task force team comes out, knocks it out, and make sure that you won't have that around. Can you imagine a homeowner in that situation with the land value decrease of that? So that's something I would have supported, and that goes to the point of building responsibly.
Yes.
Like our tech campus that Spotsy has approved down in the Thornburg area. I think that is a good location, just kind of high level looking at it. And I think maybe some further analysis needs done to make sure we don't end up in situations like that. But I do agree that that's a area that we probably should be looking, because we might be able to not have those sort of impacts down there. But definitely site selection is absolutely key.
So on the noise, I actually learned some new facts today. This is something I was familiar with, but it really drilled home today in speaking with our community planners. A recent project in the Lee Hill district, my district, right? The developer came in with a proffer. They would do a noise impact study, and they would keep it below 65 decibels. Which right now is the current standard for residential. So when you have, say, industrial butting up with residential, the lowest of right now, the max noise threshold for industrial is 100 or 109 decibels.
So make it relatable. What is 65? What is 109 decibels for the leaker?
So looking at a chart here, right? 65 decibels is about how loud we're talking right now, and that's measured at the property line. So once you start adding setback distances, decibels is a logarithmic scale. It falls off really fast. It climbs really fast. Think about a gunshot that goes up to 120, 130, really fast. the sound you perceive is on a logarithmic scale. So 65 is quieter really than the five of us are talking here within 4 feet of each other. So if you put this amount at 50 feet, 100 feet, 300 feet, the length of a football field, you can't tell. You wouldn't then be able to hear it. I had the pleasure of touring a data center, one of Matt's facilities in Manassas last week. We climbed to the roof where these air handlers are.
Yeah.
And it's a different technology than your story in North Carolina, and a different technology than some of the legacy projects up in Loudon, where the noise was an issue, understandably. But that was, those are, I don't know, 10, 15-year-old projects. We've gone past that with cooling technology, fan technology. You could talk without elevating your voices on the roof, standing just yards away from the cooling, the air handling units, the rooftop units. And so 79, if I'm looking here, that's about the volume of a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
Right? And then 65 is...
And then you add distance.
Then you add distance, And so, sort of put that layman's perspective.
I think that's really important.
I agree.
It's extremely important if the mission is to dispel the misinformation, and so just kind of mitigating what could be, should we consider, and I know this is kind of a little techies, frequency, because you can take a high frequency and put distance, and that could create a problem, so I'll ask the question about your experience on the rooftop. If you can explain or kind of describe, was it a high pitch or a hum or low pitch?
It was basically the same if you were standing yards away from your own residential AC compressor.
Got it. See? People can consume that.
Now, I will admit fully,
Yeah.
full disclosure, Uncle Sam, I don't know about you, Uncle Sam, after 20 plus years in service, guaranteed that I lost about 25 decibels.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
most of mine is at the high frequency.
That's why that's exactly why I asked that question. Because
I know there are stories out there.
Yeah.
Parents with children who couldn't sleep. I think that's largely attributable to legacy projects.
Yeah.
And older technology.
So based on that, then do we know, or is it safe to assume Spotsylvania will have the benefit of this newer technology you're speaking of, rather than to cut costs, we have some old units sitting somewhere, and then that be the
I'll offer one
experience.
quick thought to your question, and maybe Matt being the development on the development side. Because of the recent project in Lee Hill I was speaking of a moment ago, and the proffers that came in, where the project owner proffered they would do a noise study, and they would keep it below the 65 decibels.
Okay.
Right, 24 hours a day, by the way.
Okay.
Overnight. I personally think that's going to set a precedent.
Yeah.
That other developers are going to have to follow behind. And it may even get voted into design standards.
Yeah.
That's still to be decided.
Yeah.
It's outside my purview. And so that's my thought on it. Matt?
Yeah, I don't think there's any jurisdiction that I'm currently working in that doesn't have a noise ordinance. And so, to your point, Spotsylvania is 65 decibels. Just off the top of my head, I know, like in the town of Leesburg, it's 55 decibels, which is even quieter.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think context is important. So looking, there's plenty of scales you can Google and look at for kind of try to contextualize that. But even buying a decibel reader or some people's watches and phones, setting that down in a silent room, with nobody talking, right? Just literally what you would consider a silent room, it's going to be 45, 50 decibels.
Yeah.
So when you've got a noise ordinance that limits the noise to 55, you can even 65, right? That's pretty darn quiet. And, the one thing I will say is just, with the amount of money that is a part of this investment, The last thing we want to do is invest that money and then find out that, we have to shut down because we're in violation of an ordinance. Right? So we're very cognizant of that, and always taking that into account when designing facilities.
Yeah. Does that kind of round us out, or
It does.
You know what? Actually, it doesn't. With all due respect.
Oh, no, please.
The one thing I'd like to do with our remaining time here is, I had a good friend of mine. She offered a recently completed report by the Sierra Club, 60-page report.
Mm.
And I think I need to give that its due diligence. I read the report. It brings up a lot of great information. I think a lot of it lacks the context that the five of us have been discussing here this evening. In particular, generators. It lists a number of currently under roof data centers. There's about 8,900 or somewhere in the region between 8,000 and 9,000 tier 2 generators. Now, if you're not familiar with the tiering system, that's an EPA regulation. We are now deploying tier 4 generators in most locations.
Yeah.
Tier 4, if you're not familiar, you have a diesel truck, right? So you got to add the diesel exhaust.
Oh, yeah, I
right?
do.
The selective catalytic reduction, they call it. That's what a tier 4 generator puts out. Okay. Their tier 2s, much older technology. Again, same thing as the noise and the older technology with cooling. Retrofit would probably be expensive, but the generators run. The one I toured out in Manassas last week, in the last year, or maybe since install, it's a low number regardless, a total of 10 hours. They're allowed to run for testing about 5 minutes at a time. They test, they bring it up on load, or they get fined by the Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ. And so I think there's just one tidbit there that I think just lacks context in that particular report. I am very sympathetic to the environmental impact. If I could figure out a way how to build a data center without cutting a single blade of grass or a single tree or displacing a single Meadows jumping mouse or something like that, I'd love to do that. I think we can get creative. We've addressed the water, we've addressed the cooling, the power. I think there is room for improvement in the power. I love the programs, the DER programs you're talking about. On site, I would love to see some on-site generation. If it's rooftop, I don't know.
Yeah.
Co-located generation of some kind. You mentioned earlier, and I'll let you speak here in a moment, modular reactors.
Yeah.
Right?
I like the idea. I think we'll run into public issue there with the fact that nuclear in my backyard.
Yeah.
And so the bottom line is we have to solve today's problems with today's technology.
Yeah.
And then inevitably over human history, today's problems will bring, or today's solutions might bring problems for tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know, Forrest or anybody
Yeah.
else, if you have any thoughts on environmental?
I think we kind of touched on something that I want to highlight a little bit is the corporate responsibility versus regulation conversation. And I think there is a balance that can be had there with leadership on both sides, where like the technology for the cooling fans, the servers that are in the racks, everything is moving at light speed right now. And I think regulation can keep up with that and take the burden off of corporate responsibility. It's not truly on the developers and the operational maintainers to agree and keep a community.
Right.
But regulation can be there and move with it, and handshakes every single year. If that's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, maybe we need to go back, relook at that regulation versus technology conversation much more often than we probably currently do.
Absolutely.
If we do at all.
Sure.
Yeah. So bottom line, the way I see it, data centers it's an opportunity if done correctly because of the revenue.
Yeah.
And I mean, the communities will all benefit from it if it's done the right way.
I could not agree more.
I don't like when people, it pains me a little bit when folks say they just want these data centers for money.
Mhm.
I don't think of it as money. I think of it as a new school
Yes.
for my son, for your grandchildren.
Yep.
Mr. May, I don't know if you've got, kids or Matt, a new school or, Spotsylvania County is looking to stand up a tech rescue team.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, these are the specialists for high angle rescue, swift water. I mean, they already have those capabilities, but you need apparatus, you need training, you need a new firehouse.
So Spotsy superintendent right now, he needs 2 new schools.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yes, no doubt.
Yeah.
My opponent, and I commend her for this, she talks about program capacity limitations in the school system versus building capacity, enough space.
Yep.
And I commend her for that. But what I don't hear from my opponent is a plan to solve it.
Mhm.
You need resources to solve just about any problem any of us incur, whether it's, your engine blows up or you got a toothache or, any frictions of daily life, you got to have resources.
Mhm.
And in my mind, these data centers done right with a collaborative partnership.
Yeah.
Protecting the people in mind, with having that in mind, is the way we get solutions. Not just money,
Mhm.
but solutions. Right?
A collaborative partnership, definitely. Individually, we have to be stewards.
Mhm.
We have to be stewards, and there has to be a huge level of accountability. You have to pull me to the side if I'm doing something that doesn't align with what we've codified as the mutual goal for which all of us strive, to which all of us strive. Matt should say, Shell, XYZ, you said this, but you're doing that. Same thing at the jurisdictional leader level is, good government is accountable to the people.
Mhm.
It's difficult when the people aren't aware of their power of accountability to government. Then you get bully government.
Mhm.
And it's all of our responsibility to ensure that narrative is quelled to the point to where people are able to rightfully hold government accountable. You said, there's a problem, there's a prevailing problem, an ongoing problem, but no real solution. I don't know why, or what have you, but you're right. We need things, we need time, we need, the means of being able to bring forth these solutions. And the one thing, I've learned about all of the gentlemen here, including, myself, is, we all share the same care and concern for the community. I think even the broader community beyond the borders of Spotsylvania. So I would challenge each of us to keep this conversation going, whether it be collectively or in our own walks, because the people need this.
Mhm.
One last closing thought from me. I want to commend the Board of Supervisors, the sitting board right now. They're doing another session on this topic on the 23rd of September, and they're going to bring subject matter experts. I don't know. I
I'll be
presume
there.
you'll be there. I presume you would, and maybe even a larger panel than we managed to convene here this evening. And so I commend them for that. They voted that at near the conclusion of the last meeting they had. And I think that'll be a more transparent effort than what I've seen in recent weeks with a couple of the supervisors meeting with their constituents. I commend that. But how do you have informed conversations if you don't have the right subject matter? So I'll close with that. The floor is over to anybody that has any closing thoughts.
No, I love this format, by the way. In my fundamental principles, I believe government is a conversation. It's always meant to be this, and this is how we solve problems, and this is what needs to take place in the future. No for the sake of no is not a policy.
Amen.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Matt?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. education is the key, and we're happy to facilitate that in any way we can. We want to be good partners, and so thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
I would just say that that was number one. Thank you for having us here.
No problem. Thanks
Number
for being here.
two, we talked about things that we can do to help partner with our communities. Anyone that is in need of some type of assistance with paying their energy bills or struggling in some way, shape, or form, we do have programs that are available. If they go to our website, dominionenergy.com, they can look for Energy Share, which is a lovely program. It helps to put people on track to keep their lights on. We also have a program for helping the elderly to ensure their houses are energy sound. We do things like we send a group out. We actually do stuff like look at insulation in their basements, in their attics. We look at the seals around their refrigerators, what type of light bulbs they have, and we help them with that as well. So those are some of the things that that we are doing still in the community. So if you do know anybody, please, ma'am, please, sir.
Send them your way.
Yeah, let's connect. I'd love to connect with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good. Well, hey, thank you all. Thank
Yeah.
you, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. I found it very valuable. I learned a lot.
Thanks.
I hope you guys did as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Bowman.
Well, I'll go ahead and we can close on that. I just have to say thank you for, tuning in and watching us. Again, this is a public agenda, and I'll be remiss if I did not thank our sponsor, which is Elite Coaching and Consulting, and Public Administration Strategists and IT Business Partners. The committee to elect Marcus Garcia to the Board of Supervisors, Lee Hill District.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Have a wonderful evening.
If any questions or any thoughts, you can connect with me on YouTube at Dr. Shellie and on Substack, Public Agenda at Dr. Shellie. I produce articles every Tuesday and Thursday of this nature. So please enjoy the reads. If you are reading, engage often, and please share. Have a great evening. Thank you.
You'll have to excuse me for just a moment.
It's quite all right. This.
Yeah. So